There's a series of DVDs that I show my senior class every year during Lent. We pull a few of the stories from them. They're very short, 15-minute encounters with people who met Jesus and rejected him. One of those people was the woman in today's gospel, the widow of Nain. The story that this author, this little playwright, has created about this unknown woman in this DVD series that I'm describing shows us a woman who tried for a very long time to have a child. And when finally she and her husband became pregnant and had a child, her husband died shortly thereafter, leaving her a widow with this only child. And the two of them grew on together, and he was her man in her life, took care of her, provided for her. And at a young age, he died, was killed, got very sick. And Jesus comes into the scene, as we hear today, and raises this young man from the dead. And that's where the gospel story ends. Everyone rejoices. Everyone is happy. The widow is amazed that she has her son back. The playwright, then, of this DVD series develops the story further. And the widow goes on to say that her son went on to work in a quarry. And one day, he was killed in the midst of quarrying the rock. And she lost her son. He died twice in the very same year. And he tells the story then of an angry widow, one who cannot forgive Jesus for giving her boy back and then letting him be taken away. And she rails at him, and she goes in search for him because she wants to pound him. And she finds him on a cross on a Friday afternoon. And that sight of Jesus on the cross tells her that this man was a fraud, that this man was a criminal, and that he did something to her boy that wasn't right. And she walked away hopeless. She walked away rejecting Jesus. Now, of course, this is fiction. We don't know anything about what happens beyond this story. We don't know. And I guess that's the key to the question I'm about to ask. Why did Jesus raise that boy from the dead if he was only going to die again at some later time? Why does God allow the young boy in the first reading to rise from the dead if he is going to die someday? Lazarus being raised from the dead. The little girl, Jairus' daughter, being raised from the dead. Why does God raise them from the dead if they are going to live a life where they will suffer again and die? What is the point if not to raise them to eternal life? And a further question. If God heals them and raises them from the dead, why doesn't he heal everyone else? Why doesn't he raise everyone that he encounters? Why doesn't he heal everyone who is sick? Why doesn't he save everyone from their illness? Does God play favorites? Does he draw numbers out of a lottery? What kind of God are we dealing with here? We may look around in our own lives and say, how come I'm suffering? How come I'm sick or my loved ones are sick, but they're not? Am I less faithful? This is what the widow in the first reading begins to think. Did my boy die when this prophet came into my life because I'm sinful, because I'm bad, because I'm unfaithful? And Elijah reveals to her, no, that's not it. It has nothing to do about your relationship with God. So why then would God grant healing to some but not to others? Why would he raise some from the dead and and not others? Why would he heal you or not heal you, depending? Do we have favorites in here of God? Or do we have those that God does not call to himself? I think the answer to God's healing power, to what Jesus does, is found in the cross. God heals us of our physical infirmities if and only if it will bring us spiritual healing. If our physical suffering will actually benefit us for salvation, then it is better to be weak. It is better to be broken. It is better to be sick. If in my suffering I learn patience, I learn humility, I learn how to give everything over, I learn how to rely on others. If through my trials I learn how to give my life to God, then I become a holy person, and I have eternal life. And if I were to be healed of my infirmity, if I were to be strong, I may grow in pride. I may grow in self-satisfaction. I may not need God. And I may be on the road to destruction. God gives us exactly what we need. And sometimes we need healing. And sometimes we need just the grace to persevere through the healing. Perhaps these two men that were raised in the gospel in the first reading today, they were raised because they would have gone to hell had they been left dead. Perhaps their souls were not ready to enter into eternity. And they had to come back, and they had to offer their lives in service. They had to find forgiveness for someone they hurt. They had to be reconciled. They had work to do in building up the kingdom. They were not ready yet for the kingdom. And so Jesus raised them for their spiritual good, not for their physical good. Because as Jesus says, it would be better to enter into the kingdom without your limbs, without your eyes, if you enter into the kingdom. Our physical healing isn't as important as our spiritual healing. God gives us exactly what we need. And so sometimes we may pray ardently for something to change in our lives. We may pray faithfully that things would be different, that there would be a healing, or there would be a miracle, or this or that would happen. And we don't find those prayers being answered. And perhaps it's because we're denying the cross. That Jesus gives us this or that cross in our lives and says to us, it is better that you carry the cross because it will make you a holy person. It will change you. It will break you. But I will raise you from that and allow you to walk into the kingdom. If I gave you what you're asking, you would fall from me. And so I won't give you that. I will give you something else. I will give you the strength you need to get through. I will give you the grace you need to persevere. I will give you the hope you need to keep going. Because I want you to come to me. I don't want you to be satisfied in yourself. So as we see these two people receive God's healing and receive that gift of life, we know that He gives each and every one of us the gift of healing and the gift of life, the gift of eternal healing and the gift of eternal life. Whatever physical healing, whatever physical miracle we may encounter, we encounter it only if it is for our good. So today, know that Jesus wants your good. Know that He wants to heal you of your infirmities. Know that He wants to give you every grace under heaven. And He will give those to you in the measure with which you may receive them. Not for life here, but for life there. Those two were raised today, not because he wanted them to have more years on earth, but because he wanted them to live forever in heaven. And they just weren't ready yet. Make yourself ready for the kingdom. Receive the grace that God pours out for you. Know that he hears and answers every one of your prayers, but only gives you the things you need that will get you to heaven, removing every stumbling block, which are sometimes the very things we ask for. So Lord, keep us from asking for stumbling blocks. Keep us from asking for the easy way out, and help us to grow in grace, virtue, and goodness, so that we may enter into the kingdom of heaven and have life there, which is ultimately what is important.